All being considered. All right, welcome. Welcome to All Beings Considered. I'm Skyjack Morgan. That's Dr. Crystal Heath, DVM. We're doing it a little off day. It's a little.
Oh, you did a faux pas there. You don't call
did?
me Dr. Crystal Heath, DVM. That's like doctor. You choose one or the other.
I want
don't
you to
use
give me the
both.
news. It's Doctor, give me the news.
No, that's like amateur does that.
Well, I gotta lay it. I feel like it's like when people call me Mister. I feel like that's like that. Like, isn't there famous? Yeah. What was that song? There was a song by Mister. I think it was Brown Eyed Girl. No, I forget what the song was called. But Mister, right?
I don't.
Doctor, give me the news. I got a bad case of loving you.
I do.
No? You do know that one? Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Crystal Heath. Well, I wrote it down, Dr. Crystal Heath, DVM, and I'm Skyjack Morgan, doing a special episode this week because we have a special guest. Well, enough about me being with the double prefixes. Who's our illustrious guest this afternoon?
Our guest is Dr. Krista Magnifico, who is the owner of Jarrettsville Veterinary Center. She has been involved in veterinary medicine for 25 years and has worked in animal shelters as a volunteer. Dr. Magnifico earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in Marine Transportation from the United States Merchant Marine Academy and her Biology and Doctorate of Veterinary Medicine degrees from the Virginia Maryland College of Veterinary Medicine. She provides a full range of medical care and surgery to the patients of Jarrettsville Veterinary Center. And she's also the founder of Pawbly.com, which is designed to inform and empower people to allow them to take better care of their animals. So
yeah, welcome. I want to ask her a lot about Pawbly. I was checking that out on the web. Is she Dr. Krista Magnifico, DVM? She's
no,
a DVM, right?
You choose one or the other. You look like you don't know what you're talking about when you say Dr. so-and-so DVM. You either say Krista Magnifico DVM or you say Dr. Krista Magnifico. But same with writing too.
It's Are you sure? Okay. I mean,
I am positive about this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, people are used to me messing everything up and filled with faux pas. I don't mind. I just try to live life.
And I'm also educating the general public too. If you're talking to veterinarians or writing about veterinarians, you do not call them Dr. So-and-so DVM. You choose one or the other.
I remember once someone came to you after a talk and asked you why you put DVM and not doctor, or somebody else did. And you said, well, that was the editor's choice.
Yeah.
And all right, well, let's bring on Dr. Krista Magnifico, DVM.
Yeah, and when you're another thing, like in news articles, when they are talking to you, they won't refer to you as doctor in print for whatever reason.
Oh,
that's just they'll say veterinarian Crystal Heath, blah blah blah, and it depends on the outlet. But they then won't continue referring to them as Dr. Heath. They'll just say Heath or whatever. That in news articles. So, you're the English major. You should know all of this.
We don't study that in English majors. We study the intertextuality of text from the Marxist perspective. Haven't you heard? Everyone knows that. But okay, great. I do know what they call a veterinarian with a sore throat, though. Do you?
A horse doctor. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Dr. Krista Magnifico, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody.
Hopefully you're not a horse doctor, are you?
I am not a horse doctor.
No sore throat
in any sense of the word.
Wonderful. Welcome to the show, Dr. Magnifico. Everyone that I've told is that you're going to be on the show has remarked upon your wonderful name.
Thank you. Yeah. I was born with it. I was very lucky. It has made 2 marriages a little, there was a little contentious. I said, if you can outdo it, I'll think about it. But so far, no luck.
Yeah, I can see that. Some are born with greatness. Some have greatness thrust upon them. See, we learn stuff like that as an English major. Shakespeare quotes.
Mm-hmm. What is the origin of that name?
It's Italian. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I'm Italian too. My family's name is Ferraro actually. But
another great one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. So where did you, we'll get to all of what you're up to, and I love your social media and everything like that, but we're going to start at the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what was your early relationship with animals like?
So I grew up on Long Island, New York,
Oh,
and yeah, my grandparents immigrated, so I was a Magnifico from the beginning. So my dad's side of the family were immigrants, and he was first generation American. My parents met in college on Long Island, and I was there for all of my early years. And I think my mom saw Long Island getting really busy, and she wanted to raise her kids in the country. She was a James Herriot fan. I grew up loving animals from that and from her. And we moved to the country. We moved to New Hampshire when I was in elementary school, and my mom, raised her kids, got a farm. We had horses and sheep and dogs and cats, and that was it. I was hooked. I think there was a bit of a difficult transition for me going from Long Island city girl to country girl. So I think I felt a little misplaced and a little alone, and the animals were the place that I sought my refuge, and that was it from the beginning.
yeah, absolutely. So prior to veterinary school, what you went to studied merchant marine stuff.
I did.
What was that about? Why did you
So
choose that path?
I'm the oldest of three, and I did very well in school. I still struggled with the country life. Like I'm just, I struggle with this kind of bipolar city girl, country girl. And when I
You
was
have a
getting ready,
cosmopolitan flair that doesn't
do.
quite take in the country.
It doesn't. I was not so easily tamed. So as I was getting ready to go to high school, I really wanted something more than I had in my little town in New Hampshire. So I went to a boarding school for high school, and that got me back kind of exposed to the rest of the world and lots of cultures and lots of different people. And as I was choosing to go to college, my parents really wanted me to go to a federal academy. So there are 5 federal academies, and I call Kings Point, which is the United States Merchant Marine Academy, we're the ugly stepsister of the Big 4. So I ended up going to Long Island to go to college, and it's a federal academy. So I was trained to go to sea. And when I graduated from getting ready to graduate from the academy, I knew that if I didn't go to sea then, I would never go. So I started sailing and shipping out. That time it was AT&T. It's now had some iterations, but we were laying and repairing fiber optic submarine cable in the oceans.
Wow.
I would go to sea for 4 months, and then I went back to school. I went and got my biology degree because I have an engineering transportation degree. I went back to school at Blacksburg so I could go to Virginia Tech. So I have multiple college degrees, and I spent a long time to try to get myself into vet school, which was really the place I always belonged.
You went to vet school as a Hokey. Is that
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. So, man, I have so many questions about the merchant marine, though.
Yeah, I know. I do too. We can.
What did you still, I guess, to keep it on the animals, were there animals that you beheld whilst working out there laying? No.
Yeah. No, once you get a couple miles out to sea, there's really nothing. There's no birds. There's very rarely do you see any marine life. I of course, everybody has sea stories, and of course you would once in a while see whales, once in a while see dolphins.
Yeah.
I remember it was a very calm day, and I was on the bridge, so I was up, kind of scanning the horizon, and I saw what looked like a floating car. And it ended up being a sea turtle that was I swear that sea turtle was 25 feet across.
Whoa.
Just in the middle of the ocean. And I remember looking at him and saying, dude, you got so far to go, and you must be so lonely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Want to pick him up and let's take him to somewhere near shore or an island or somewhere.
Yeah.
So I fell down the TikTok where the people go into these pressurized things under the the sea, and they spend like 28 days there and do various engineerings under the ocean. Did you do that at all?
Yeah, everything that we did was from above the sea line. So we had submersibles, and people would be manning them, but it was always done remotely. So we always had there were lots of electric cords kind of hanging off of the ship. But no one would you never got in the water unless it was a lifeboat drill, or there were multiple times where we were rescuing people at sea. So you would get in a small craft to go over, but otherwise you stayed on the very big ship where it was very safe.
So
but I see like the North Sea. I want to ask like the North Sea TikToks. Have you seen those where it's like the huge waves? Did you ever find yourself anything? Like that? Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was in the perfect storm when the perfect storm happened. And yeah, there were times where you would sleep with your survival suit on or underneath you or ready to go, because you are never going to win if you have a fight against Mother Nature and she's calling your number. So yeah, there were multiple times where it was, it was pretty scary. There's no way around it.
But you gave us the internet.
I did give you the internet and telephone. I gave you, transcontinental telephone.
You gave us transcontinental telephony. So, I mean, it was a good trade-off. I mean, the Merchant Marines are heroes, the true unsung heroes of the ocean.
Yeah, it's a very different world and a very different life. I think a lot of things trained me to become the person that I have. There's no way around that. They were not always the easiest to go through, but they certainly, make you who you are.
So I always wonder, Doctor, like there's these cables laying. Everyone knows there's cables down there, right? Because that's since the telegraph, we've had cables crossing the Atlantic. But how come the animals don't mess with it? How come there's nothing going on? Like we always see the animals, they build all sorts of stuff down. How does all this cable make it?
So in areas where there is, marine life, they actually have a cable that's, protected from sharks. They learned the first couple of times they laid it that the sharks would attack it. So they added extra layers of, steel and metal to reinforce it. So depending on where you are in the ocean, the cable changes. It can change in diameter from, very 5 inches across, 6 inches across to very small, kind of smaller than your garden hose in the very, very depths of the ocean. But there's activity that goes on down there. There's not so many big mammals with big teeth that you have to worry about in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
But
or
yeah,
at the
certainly
bottom
there's
of it,
activity.
I guess.
Yeah.
Man, interesting.
So what made you leave all that behind and decide to pursue veterinary medicine?
Yeah. So I always struggle with answering this question because I want very much to live in a world where it doesn't matter whether you're a male or a female, but it is a very lonely life and a very dangerous life. And then if you're a female, there's another layer that's just almost insurmountable. No matter how good your crew is, you are going to places that don't see women the same way. And there were a lot of places that I went that I never left the ship. And if I did, I had to leave with, an escort almost. So there were, you're gone for 4 months at a time and life happens around you, whether or not you want it to. And at some point you get kind of sick and tired living your life in small doses.
Yeah, I get that. I knew someone that was doing something down at the South Pole that told me a similar story, that they would go down for only a few months, they'd come back, and then everyone else's lives has kept going, and they've had you start getting kind of out of step with the rest of humanity in a way, huh?
Yeah,
man. Sorry.
No, I think veterinary medicine really reminds you over and over and over again that life is short, right? Our pets never live long enough for us. And then when you're living your life in kind of, on off, it really reinforces that. So it's not something you can do long term, and I think end up feeling like you lived a normal, healthy, fulfilled life at the end of. When you're right out of college and you're making lots of money and you're traveling the world, it's a little easier to swallow, but long term you'll wake up and you'll be 40 years old and 20 years have gone by and you're so disjointed from everything that it makes it hard to kind of know where you stand.
I
Yeah.
bet. I mean, did you at least work on a great pirate accent? Can you do a real good pirate voice when you?
Yeah. So most of the like most people who go to most people who go to sea are running cargo between point A and point B.
Yeah.
I was working for a company that all of the work happened between point A and point B. So I you don't have a lot of downtime. It's
Mm,
not. We all work 12-hour shifts or more, and
Wow.
you yeah, you have to keep yourself. There were times where you would be up for 3 or 4 days straight because that was just the nature of the beast, or we had really inclement weather, and the higher you got in rank, the more you had to be there 24/7. So it's not. Yeah, I read a
Wow.
lot of books in those
yeah.
days. It was a lot of there wasn't it was a lot of VHS tapes. There were some movies that I've seen 25 times because there was nothing else to do.
Or
But yeah, it was it was a lot of it was nice downtime. There will never be a time in my life where I have that kind of downtime. Where you're
oh, because you're
Interesting.
isolated, I bet. Yeah.
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 I'm sure you have made connections with people too. It sounds like one of those situations where you might have nothing in common with those people for the rest of your lives, but you stay in touch and you have something together that you really can't describe or talk about with anybody else. And so you stay connected with those people in a very real kind of, I don't know, very fundamental way.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think from going to the academy, so the it's a small academy. All of us were trained to do the same thing. When my class graduated, there were a small handful of us that all went to work for that company. So we had been together for 4 years, and there's only really two majors, and 130 kids in the class. So we all still stay very connected. So my class of King's Pointers, like we're still very, very close. And because our industry is so small, we all know somebody who knows there's never 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There's like two.
Yeah.
So if
Oh
you
wow.
if you went to sea, you knew everybody from 10 classes ahead of you and 10 classes behind. And yeah, it's a very small industry, and it's so nichey that yeah, there's a degree of friendship that we have that nobody else could explain or replace or understand.
Yeah. So then, okay, you leave all that behind, you go to vet school. How was vet school? Was it different than you expected? And what kind of was the biggest challenges there with vet school?
So I don't think that I think that having come from the academy and coming from C, it was really it was much easier. When you're at the academy, you do about 22 credits a semester. You have to put 4 years of school into like 3 years because you have to spend a year at sea, and it's so rigorous. I think that
Mhm.
what going to vet school did for me was it was easier to take the highs and the lows. Maybe I was 10 years out, so I had a
Mhm.
career. I really knew who I was. If I got a C minus on my chemistry test or something, or my anatomy test, like I was happy, I was fine. As long as I
Mhm.
wasn't at the very, very bottom, and the just your
Yeah.
the bar that you use to measure everything is just very different.
Yeah.
And now 25 years of practice, what changes have you seen in how we train
Oh,
veterinarians? I mean, you been have you seen much change since you were there?
yeah. I think I grew up in a veterinary clinic in New Hampshire. I since I had started working there when I was like 12. So he was very much the do everything, see everything, the hometown veterinarian. He lived
Mm,
above his clinic. And
Mhm.
if you needed the vet, that was the one vet that you called, regardless of what species it was. So that's really how I grew up. He was always my mentor. Everything was very practical. I mean, I swear we never talked about money. Like it never was discussed. It didn't matter what that animal needed. He was going to provide it, had knowing very well the clients that he was dealing with. He knew
mhm.
everyone's kind of socioeconomic status and what that pet meant to them or what that animal meant to them. And it meant that everything was just done to maintain the community that he was a part of and
Yeah.
Mhm.
needed to stay a part of. And then, like everything else, everything became corporatized, or the offshore schools started, and they took advantage of a big need, and it didn't matter what price point they put on it. And I think that medicine these days really reflects the same thing. There are people who are desperate to get into vet school, and there are people who are desperate to take care of the pets that they call their family, and therefore that leaves opportunity that people have taken advantage of financially.
I think that makes sense, right?
And you talk a lot about that on your social media and stuff. And I'm trying to understand, what was your path after vet school? Like, you worked for that one doctor where he lived above the clinic, it sounds like. And then where was that? And where did you go from there?
Yeah, so that was in New Hampshire. So the whole time that I was in New Hampshire, whether that was elementary school, junior high, high school, even the boarding school, every summer was spent with him. And then I went to the academy, and and then I graduated from there and moved really to Baltimore area. And I would be at sea for 4 months, and then I worked at Barks before it was Barks, and then moved to Virginia Tech, and I worked at a veterinary clinic down there, as a technician, and to get into vet school. And then once I got out of vet school, I moved up I live right on the border of Maryland and Pennsylvania, in York County, Pennsylvania. And I just started looking for a clinic to work at, and I knew what kind of veterinarian I wanted to be. So I just looked for a clinic that closely approximated that. And I've been at the same clinic for 20 years now.
Wow. I wanted to ask you about tech, though, and you talked about like the corporatization of the industry, but also of education, right? I mean, I've been to tech a few times, a lot of times, and it seems like, I mean, I knew a lot of farmers back then, a lot of cattle farmers, and all of them went to tech, and all of them were ag majors at tech. It's almost like it's an agriculture school still. It's like when I hear about someone having a different major from there, it's actually kind of a surprise, because I really see it as an agriculture school. Was it like that 25 years ago, and has it changed? And how do they approach animal welfare and some of the things that you care about today?
Well, I think like a lot of places, it's always going to be a reflection of the professors that are there, the community that surrounds it, and then the student body. And the student body has changed over time. And it'll always represent that. It's a big school in really the middle of nowhere. It's always had a great football team. There's a lot of people who are devoted alumni and fans, and things are influenced. There's no way to run any part of the college without it being influenced by, kind of the current trends and beliefs and feelings. And yeah, it is an ag school. It will always be an ag school because of where it's located. But there was equally as many people who wanted to do small animal medicine or specialty medicine or equine medicine as there was, kind of the food animal side.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. It's funny. I've been there so many times. I had no idea, because, you go there. It's funny. I worked and lived in Virginia for so long, and I knew all those farmers. And the first time I saw a fistulated cow was at Tech. But then, of course, people invite you to the football games, and you end up on campus a lot. It's it's one of the. You see people in all parts of Virginia with Virginia Tech tattoos because they're just the football fans. Yeah, they didn't even go there. Yeah. But so you've worked in clinical veterinary care and animal shelters, and how have these two worlds shaped your views and on how we treat companion animals?
Well, for me, both of them are really just kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but they've always been centered on the pets that belong there, whether they're transient or whether they're misfortunate or whether they've got the most posh lifestyle imaginable. So I always came to medicine from the welfare side, the advocacy side and the welfare side. So I think that's why having exposure to the shelter and being in private practice are always where my interests have been.
And how do you do it? You talked a lot about, providing the care for the animals that they need and within the client's ability to pay. And you express a lot of frustration with the rising cost of veterinary care. And, how do you do it when you feel like, when it seems like so many other veterinarians aren't
Yeah,
able to?
I don't, I just don't do it any other way. I just don't see it any other
Mm.
way. I don't, I, I, the problem is no different than medicine, or you're going to do an exploratory. You don't know most of the time what you're going into when you do an exploratory surgery. You know, you got to go in through the abdomen, you got to look everywhere, and you got to be prepared to change your technique or your plan or your exit strategy, no matter what you encounter, right? Like you can't phone a friend when you're elbow deep in an abdomen. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there are times where that abdomen looks really bad, and there are times where I have to call. There's 5 veterinarians in my practice, so I'm very lucky. There's always somebody else in the building, and I have to call
Yeah.
in my fellow vet and say, I need you to get on the phone and talk to these people, because this is not manageable, or this is not, we can't get around this. And but I just never give up, and I refuse to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And then after that, I really remember the veterinarian who I grew up with. And it was, here's the problem, here's what we got to do, and we're just going to do it. And I don't put obstacles in my way that make it impossible for anybody to have hope and to try, right? I'm not going to win every battle against disease, but I'm never going to walk away feeling like I gave up because it was the easy thing to do, or the economically, most economically feasible thing to do. I don't practice food animal medicine for that reason. It's not replacement
Yeah.
value in any sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean that ties into my next question, because Crystal and I, we talk about this a lot with veterinarians and in the circle of animal welfare and animal advocacy. And um, sometimes veterinarians are faced with some ethical dilemmas that maybe have to weigh the interest of the animal against convenience and cost and cultural norms. Can you maybe speak to any ethical dilemmas you've had to face?
Oh, yeah, there's always ethical dilemmas, because everybody comes into the vet clinic with a whole set of circumstances and life experiences and stories and
Yeah.
trauma that I'm never gonna know. I am
Right.
very lucky that I have been here for 20 years. This clinic has been here for over 80 years, and we have a reputation. I know 90% of the people that I see, and now I've been there for so long that I know sometimes I'm seeing the grandchildren that I saw 20 years ago, who now have,
Oh, that's
their
cool.
own. Yeah, so that makes it really easy for me. I
Mm.
also am surrounded by a multitude of other clinics who practice different medicine, and I'll say to them, I may not be the vet for you. I may not be the person. There's 4 other vets here. I am, I'm the person that doesn't eat meat, and
Mhm.
I know I'm on one end of the spectrum, and there are people who are on the other end of the spectrum that I call my dearest, closest friends. So sometimes it's just finding somebody else in the practice, but collectively, the veterinarians, we all really work together. We all have each other's back. Last night, somebody brought in a dog to be euthanized, a 14-year an older dog, and the veterinarian couldn't do it. The dog was walking around wagging its tail, and she couldn't do it. And she came out to me and she said, I just can't do it. And I walked in the room and I said, I'm sorry, we just can't consent to this. You can go elsewhere. They'll probably never even talk to you about why you're here. But we'd like
Wow.
to try to figure out some way to see if we can figure out what's best for this pet. And 5 of us got together and we made a plan and helped this family. And this dog is going to had a different day yesterday than it was probably planned. So there's always ethical questions, but
Mhm.
I think if we all remain focused on, we're all here because we care about pets, and if we can all take our kind of personal opinions out of the way, how can we put them first at the forefront of all the decisions that we make? And it meant that we did diagnostics for free, that we have an internal Good Samaritan fund will pay for, and we got to do diagnostics to understand what was going on with his pet, to explain to the owners. And now we can all make a decision that everyone can feel better about. So
I love
sometimes
that.
it's
I love what you
Yeah.
said there about how you've created a network of vets that you said, we all got together. The 5 of us talked. We have other vets. She had someone to go to, come to you and confide in you. I'm not willing to do this. And it is about that consent and talking it through and having that support network. How it's so much easier to do the right thing when you're surrounded by other people who are encouraging you to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's the right thing for me may not have been the right thing for that pet parent. It means that we can stop and take pause and say, and I say it a lot. I say, what can I do to help your pet? Like, where are we? Sometimes I'm talking with families who are losing their homes or can't, struggling to feed their kids. We have a pet food pantry at the clinic. We started a nonprofit. So I started a nonprofit to help get people care that otherwise would be cost prohibitive. And we always think out of the box. We never stop at what's easy. We all have to walk out of that. We all walk out of that place at the end of the night absolutely exhausted, but none of us walk out feeling like we sold our soul or we didn't stay true to who we are.
That sounds like a dream job. That's the dream, right?
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I feel like you don't sell your soul. Mm-hmm.
So dovetailing off of that, what is Not One More Pet? Are you the founder of that, or is that a bunch of other people?
So Lisa and I, I've been working on access to affordable care and talking about it for a long time. I posted a video many years ago. I think it's like 7 now. And it went up overnight. I had gone to work one day and a client brought their dog in with a pyometra. They had been at the ER. The ER didn't make nothing was affordable for them. I think the price point then was like $4,000. It's now like double that.
I had somebody come to me with a quote for $12,000 for a pyometra that we ended up doing for $1,200. Yeah.
Every day of my life, girl. And I was so upset that night that I pulled over, and it was a really rainy night. I'll never forget it. I mean, that video is still up on YouTube. And I just said, we have to do better. This ER is very capable. They have very good people, but if you can't offer anybody something to anybody that is at all affordable, and even the euthanasia was, I think, like $600, then we have to do better. They sent these people out with 1 dose of antibiotic and my name on a Post-it note, and I was just upset. And that I woke up the next morning. I posted it that night. I woke up the next morning and I had like 10 messages on my phone from people that I've never met before, who were very well known in our profession, and it got me kicked out of every single vet group.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I got a text message saying that I was kicked out of Not One More Vet because I created.
Kick you out of? That's a funny group to be kicked out of.
Suicide group. Yeah,
I haven't even been kicked out of Not One More Vet yet. But I have been
working on it.
They have tried to get my license revoked, but they haven't kicked me out.
Yeah, I've got 3 of those. I'm gonna wallpaper one of my bathrooms next with my.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for everyone who doesn't know what Not Another Vet is, because I know we've got a lot of lay people watching. Not Another Vet.
Not One More Vet.
Not One More Vet. Sorry. Why don't you explain it? So I'm not a member, and you still are. What the final remaining only person who's actually a member?
It's a nonprofit, and the purpose was to originally be supportive for vets who were suffering from moral distress and the mental health challenges of this work. And it's because of they don't understand the root cause of it. But things like being harassed they always talk about harassed by clients because they don't understand the value of vet med, and this idea that having a pet is a luxury, and if you can't afford it then you don't deserve a pet, is like a predominant narrative. But at the root of it is this
type of
idea
behavior
that our patients are property and products, and we are now having to euthanize animals who do not need to be euthanized because of this corporate structure of veterinary care that has made it cost so much, and just the way things are set up. But we never get down to like the root cause of it. And that's what I think Not One More Pet does. It gets down to like the root cause of what is causing this severe mental health challenges that veterinarians are facing. And that's like having to betray our conscience and in service of capitalism, basically.
So Not One More Pet gets closer to the root of the cause of the suicides than Not One More Vet, the organization that ostensibly is invented to address the suicide issue.
So not One More Pet means that we are not going to euthanize one more pet because it's not economically feasible for us to find another option. That's really what it is. We are not going to sacrifice another life because we've all decided collectively that we're not going to talk about the fact that the money has led to a lot of the unrest.
Oh no, she's frozen on us.
Both sides of the table, both sides ends of the leash. Right? Our clients don't trust us anymore. They don't want to come to us anymore. They can't afford us anymore. And we're fine with placing blame on why we're not responsible for that.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think is the root cause of all of this? Why do so many veterinarians not seem to get it? What would you tell like younger vets right now as advice for like how to deal with being a veterinarian in this world?
I feel like all of us, I say all, not most of us came to medicine because we identify with how important pets are in our lives. And we want to protect that. I came here because I didn't ever want anyone to tell me that I couldn't save anything regardless of what the reason was. I was never going to be told that I couldn't try to save that cat or that dog or whatever it was. I was going to kind of put myself in a position of power so that I didn't have to feel powerless in helping the animals in my life because they were the most important things in my life. And that was my calling. And I think a lot of veterinarians go into vet school with that same passion. If we didn't have that same passion, we certainly wouldn't put up with all of the hurdles and all of the roadblocks and all of the obstacles that it takes to get you into vet school. So much so that you will go to an offshore school and spend more money than you could almost make in your career, right? USA Today did an economic study and rated vet school the worst investment you can ever make. You end up so far in debt that you can't pay it back. And we are so blindly ambitious to going to vet school that we will even ignore that. And then you get out into the workplace and you start, making deals with the devil, plain and simple. You start being told that you offer this and everybody, this whole gold standard ivory tower, that's where you start. And you hope that they'll take a nibble, or you hope that they'll feel bad enough to figure out some way to mortgage their house or max out their credit cards or whatever. We make you feel very uncomfortable for as long as it takes for you to buckle or try to come up with the money. And then when that doesn't work, we'll start negotiating with you with another option. And then, economic euthanasia is widely accepted. And then once that client signs that euthanasia form, we all walk away with our clear conscience that they weren't prepared. And it was their fault and they didn't have enough money and, whatever justifiable excuse we can take to bed that night. And I just don't buy it.
Yeah. I think everybody there, since I'm still on Not One More Vet, I know all of the stories, but it's always like, I am stuck at this toxic practice that I hate it. And I signed a non-compete. So I'll have to drive an hour and a half to go work at another clinic if I quit this clinic. How can I best manage this horribly toxic situation that I'm stuck working in? And I've got student loan debt to pay off.
Yeah.
And we paint ourselves into these boxes of like
absolutely
this mental trap. And I just, want to tell vets that you don't have to do that. Like there are options, and sometimes the option is move and divorce your husband and whatever you need to do to get out of there.
Yeah.
It's
We're smart
it,
enough to know that you don't sign yourself
yeah,
up with one of the places. And everybody wants to feel like I have to get my $200,000 sign-on bonus, and therefore, or we're very smart, and we're all sitting in here calculating and manipulating how we can swallow this pill that we think we have to take because we think it's in our own best interest, whether that's short term or long term, and it's just not reality.
Yeah.
These corporate practices are going to start closing, and you are going to be left out, and they don't care they just don't care about you, and that gets translated all the way down the food chain.
Wow.
To the animals themselves.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're reminding me. It's like you're personally affixing your own sword of Damocles over your own head, and then wondering why you're stressed out. Like I'm putting this. I'm gonna hang this horsehair with. I'm gonna hang this sword by a horsehair over my head, and then I'm wondering why I'm stressed out about this. Well, so tell me what Pawbly's about then. Pawbly is seeking to fill some gaps here, and I was looking at the website. Why don't you tell me what we're trying to do with this platform?
So Pawbly was sort of my what can I project on a macro scale to demonstrate what I do in my day-to-day life? Where can I create a place where people can go and we can all take care of each other? We all share stories, we can ask questions. It's an open platform for anybody to use, and anybody can participate in. And really from here, there's always the free question and answer part, and then every surgery that I do and a lot of cases that I do, I add them to the storyline. So it's a place for me to put the data that I am accumulating in my day-to-day life to show other people that you can get the same service and the same care, and the price point can be markedly different. And everybody wants to give an excuse as to why that is, and I put it up there on a case-by-case basis. So that's what Pawbly really was. I hope that somewhere down the road it turns into the place where people can either utilize or utilize their cases or find virtual help, so that you can have someone advocating for you at 2:00 in the morning when you're in an ER and someone's telling you that it's $12,000 for your PIO. I hope that Pawbly becomes the place that says, wait a minute, you're still a consumer, you still have power, and there are still other places outside of this roof that may take care of you and not make you feel like you've got $12,000 that you got to try to come up with, or you walk out without your pet.
I love that. So it's like empowering the guardian then to help kind of free them from this economic cage that they're in generally when it comes to their pets. Love it.
Yeah.
I mean,
this profession is ripe for a lot of disruption, and it's going to start happening. One, because we all are living in a place and time now where where the disbelief is happening, right? Like we're at this perfect pivot point where people are not going to give up on their pets when they feel insecure in the world that they live in. People are going to are demanding change across the board, and people are now not afraid to advocate for it. And then you add AI, and you add all of the influence of social media and all of the open platforms, and it's this profession, I think, is going to be at the forefront of change that happens in healthcare across the board.
I don't know. I really worry about that because I mean, during COVID, so many people the shelters emptied and everyone filled their homes with a dog, cat, and then COVID ended. And a few years later, now we're having worse. It's worse now. Now our shelters are overflowing. People are surrendering their animals in a way that we've never really seen.
Because of the rising cost of vet care is one reason why they're surrendering their animals.
Absolutely. And but I mean, is it just going to be the vets who have to change? I mean, we have to change the culture a little bit, don't we? I mean, maybe not everyone should have a pet.
Yeah, I think the culture is changing. I think it goes through waves like it has. And Krista will say the same thing. It is changing. When I graduated from vet school, 20 years ago, there were no vegan options. You had to be kind of on the fringes, and now it's on every restaurant that you go to. People, it's a word. I used to have to define the word. I used to have
Yeah,
to
me
give
too.
people what the definition was, and I don't have to do that anymore. And people are not having children because they want to have their pets, and it is changing. Granted, it's not as the pace that any of us want, but it is changing. And these the corporate infrastructure has so saturated our profession that they have no choice other than to eat each other alive or just close their doors, and it has already started to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, like the relief rates that some of these places will offer
Yeah.
you to work
Yeah.
there for a day. And I think, at least that'll get you out of the now you're trapped in a non-compete sort of situation, working 5 days a week. Now people can roam around, but that does lead to high cost of vet care, because then they raise their prices, and when you do work that day, you're going to end up with seeing a lot of animals who can't afford veterinary care there, and that's a sucky situation. But I was talking to on one thread on one of those Facebook groups about how, well, people are relinquishing their animals to the shelter because they can't afford veterinary care. So then me as a shelter vet, I get to care for their animals and it's publicly subsidized. Why don't we just publicly subsidize veterinary care across the board? Because, right now we're spending $52 billion a year on corporations when Americans only spend $38 billion a year on veterinary care for their animals. So we could, in theory. What do you think?
I think
or
that
at least expanding existing services. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that veterinary medicine has always and will probably continue to follow in the footsteps of human medicine. And at some point, enough people are going to get denied insurance or priced out of it that we're going to start to see the human side. The access to healthcare is not going to go away. People's requesting it, and at some point we're all going to understand that it's not just about me as a singular person, it's about taking care of everybody, so that when me as a singular person needs something or falls upon the merciful hands of those around me, that we've got it figured out. Now there's a rise of procedure-based clinics, and I think that's the next thing that I'm going to do with my professional career. I don't want to give rabies vaccines to Frenchie puppies anymore. Like, I'm just
Whoa. Why is that? That's something I haven't heard of. Why rabies and Frenchies?
Because it makes me crazy.
Why? Are they getting rabies a lot?
No, it's Crystal understands.
They're very prone to vaccine reactions.
Oh,
they swell up and
no, it's not just that. It's that people will spend $2,000 to $4,000 on a cute face, and then they're not prepared for the $2,000 to $4,000 to take care of that cute face. And I really want to be in that place when they need me the most. You don't need me the most when you need your rabies vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good point. So what are you, you've got your veterinary practice. Is that the thing that you're most passionate about, improving every day, making better, making a community there? Or is there something else in your life that you're most passionate about?
Oh, well, I'll always be most passionate about pets. There's no way around that. No, I'm really most passionate about pushing the boundaries and challenging people to think in ways that they either didn't think they had permission to or didn't realize they had the voice for. That's what I'm really passionate about. I'm going to keep challenging this system and keep challenging the status quos and keep challenging the obstacles and the barriers that people want to put in place, because there's no way around the fact that when all else fails, these pets save our lives day in and day out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I think about how my question was going to be about how if you think the veterinary profession, clearly you don't think the veterinary profession is doing enough to challenge these, challenge the harmful systems and the industrial breeding and exploitative pet ownership models. But I guess I would ask you, what kind of concrete things would the profession need to change? What what would, if you could wave a wand, what would AVMA or some of these just people in charge, the tastemakers of your profession, what would change? What's day one change?
We just have to go back to who we always were. Who were you when you came here, and how far are you on that spectrum now? You know, so much of what happens and what we talk about in this profession and amongst the leaders of this profession is not really about the animals anymore. It's really not. You know, it's about, you know, we'll talk about mental health, and we'll talk about our diversity, and we'll talk about the schools, and we'll talk about, you know, the rising costs and the
money,
you know, and there's certainly that subsect of the profession which are in the scientific phase, right? They're just in the discovery and the production and the, you know, the real educational granular phase. And then there's all the rest of us who are in the trenches, and we all need to be reminded that our most important superpower is our compassion. That's it.
Yeah. And our courage to be compassionate. Yes.
Your conscience, listen to your conscience. I mean, that's like,
yeah, I don't know that veterinarians ever had courage. Like, we have courage when we're in the barn, or we're in a stall, or we're in an abdomen. You know, we have a lot of courage on that one-on-one. Outside of that, we will always be this very humble profession. And some, you know, some of us really love that about the profession. We will always be in smelling like manure and filthy and, you know, and never having fingernails.
Yeah. Oh my God. Word. The no fingernails thing. It's so
covered
funny.
in cat hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what gives you hope right now? What gives you hope to keep moving forward?
I spent 4 years at a federal academy, 10 years at sea. I went to the Ukraine in the beginning of this war. You have to have hope at the nidus of what you of who you are every single moment of your life. I don't care what life throws at you. You just have to hold on to hope, because everything else falls if you lose that.
Yeah, it's hard. That's like the one thing people reach out to me and want support, and they're like, gosh, the world is just horrible right now. How do you keep going? Like, everybody's so evil, blah, blah, blah. And I always struggle with how to answer that question.
Yeah,
it's tough one.
I will tell you that there is a dog at my feet. I have a cat. I have a cat up in my, you know, waiting for me up on the pillow of my bed. I have cats at the clinic, you know, the cat that was hit by a car and nobody wanted, and, you know, miraculously survived. Like, they are at the end of my fingertip everywhere I go. And there isn't one moment of a day where I don't stop and spend time with my patient, whether or not the pet parent or the owner ever sees it. Every single surgery that I go into, and I have this luxury, Crystal, so this is one of the reasons why I don't do shelter medicine. I sit down in that cage with every single animal before I start every single surgery, and every single appointment that I walk into, I sit down and I acknowledge them, and that's what gets me through the day, no matter how awful the people are. And sometimes they're awful.
they have a propensity for it. Awfulness.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough out there, but I'm glad there's veterinarians like you creating a culture in your clinic that everybody should emulate. And I wish there were more vets like that. And we do know a few, like Michelle Forbes is another great one who I think her clinic has a similar culture as well. I'd love to have her on. She has a great TikTok, and was ostracized the same as you for spout the same issue, like talking about the high cost of veterinary care. And these animals that come from these other clinics where they wanted to charge so much and they couldn't afford it. And then they came to her clinic and she was able to save them. And, you know, there are so many vets who are just the unsung heroes of this whole crisis that is happening right now. Yeah. And hopefully we can stick it to private equity and win, whether it be via publicly funded vet care or private veterinary clinics.
Well, it's funny how Dr. Magnifico talks about the pets giving her hope and how the animals, you know, keep her going. And it makes me, while she's talking, I'm thinking, I kind of want to go to the shelter right now and pick up a little soul and bring her home, you know, bring him home, make sure he's okay and has a couple good years left. I always wanted to get an old dog, you know, no one ever wants to adopt the old dogs. But
Yeah.
but then the next breath is, man, it's so expensive. And it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. I can't
It's
go get
yeah,
a dog.
no, yeah, it's not. I just don't believe that. I just don't.
Mhm.
It's not the same veterinary care is available now that was available 30 years ago. And having hope doesn't have to have a price tag. There's not a price tag that's associated with that. You know, it's
Yeah.
and I tell my clients it's okay to not have $10,000 in your bank account, and it's okay to not go see an oncologist
Mhm.
to feel
Yeah.
better about making a hard decision. It's okay. Everything is manageable with hope and somebody who will be there to help you. And sometimes it means that, yeah, we give an antibiotic or we teach people how to do sub-Q fluids at home. But there isn't anybody that ever walks out of my clinic feeling like I took their hope because they didn't have enough money to pay for it. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that you can't go rescue a senior pet right now and have the best 3 months of your
Mhm.
life or 3 years or whatever and feel like you have to have this much money to do it.
Yeah. I
Wow.
agree. It shouldn't be a luxury, and I was so disappointed to see some vets saying that having a pet is a luxury, and if you can't afford it, then you can't afford the pet. And you know, going to comedy shows is a luxury too, but that doesn't mean that comedians don't deserve healthcare, access to
Right.
healthcare.
Yeah.
So, I
Sure.
don't know. They all these animals add something. They're part of society, and I think society has a duty to take care of them. And your clinic is doing that, and so many great veterinary clinics around the world are viewing animals this way. We're all part of society, and we're all in it to help each other, and that's what we should be doing. So,
A circle
where
of
can
moral
people
consideration, right? I mean,
exactly?
what you just landed on was that you mentioned comedians, but I'm also thinking it's a luxury to go to a restaurant, and most
Yeah,
restaurant workers don't have health care. Most people don't. We're not taking care of the people who are taking care of us, and it's
animals are taking care of us.
and animals are taking care of us exactly, and they're so important. 50% of American households have dogs now, and I can't imagine 50% of them being callous individuals who want to leave them on the side of the road, even though there's people who do that. Every time I drive to Vegas, I see dogs out there, and it's just a matter of widening that circle of care, widening that. It's about one health. It's about caring about each other and considering them.
Yeah. Where can people find you, Dr. Magnifico, if they want to follow you and learn more?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. You can find my Facebook page for so it's Jarrettsville Veterinary Center. Our Facebook page is amazing. We share all the cases, all the stories. You can find me at pawbly.com. And then if you're a veterinarian, you can look for Not One More Pet. It really is right now just for the veterinarians.
Mhm.
We're trying to keep it as a community of veterinarians to
Yeah.
encourage each other to offer affordable care regardless of what the situation is. And then if you go to Pet Good Samaritan Fund, that's the nonprofit that my
Oh,
husband and my sister and I started. And that is really designed to help encourage pet care providers to offer affordable care. And then we are providing a guarantee to those providers if the client defaults on paying you back.
that's amazing. Everybody should donate to petgoodsamaritanfund.com or go. That's the website, right? And I'm looking at the website right now. Petgoodsamaritanfund.com. Go there, donate, and support the cause. That's
So
amazing. Thank
cool.
you so much for
Yeah,
coming on and
thank you,
talking.
doctor. Yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for all the important work that you do. You're incredible.
Thank you. It's really
Inspiration.
been it's been wonderful to talk to you. And there's a whole community of people out there just like
Mhm.
Crystal and I. And and nothing is insurmountable. If you're in veterinary medicine and you're struggling, there is a community out there. And sometimes it's just taking that little leap of faith, like we do every single pet that we see in case that we see. And not being afraid to have that little badge of courage to ask for something better.
I'll wear my red badge of
Exactly.
courage, if you will. Thank you for that inspirational. Yeah, thank you for being an inspiration to all of us. I appreciate you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. That was a I love every week we get to talk to these incredible vets that make me feel a little bit better about humanity and about our relationship with animals. I want to thank everyone for liking and subscribing already. Thank you for hitting that like button. Please share. I saw somebody already shared the stream on Linda Middlesworth. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Share this as many times as you can. Please, when we make shorts and smaller content out of this, please share that with your vet friends. Share the Our Honor page. And if you'd like, please make a donation to ourhonor.org/donation, /donate, I'm sorry. And help us with our work if you like our content and our investigations and everything we're doing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Doctor?
Sounds good. Yeah. Great show. Great talking to Dr. Magnifico. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
We're doing Underground on Sunday. I'm on Jamie Logan's live stream, I think Sunday or something. We'll see about that.
You're going to be on Jamie Logan. That's great. I haven't caught. I saw what she did with Gary Yourofsky. That was interesting, and I hope that you have a good time.
It'll be different than that.
She's so nice. It'll be different from that.
Yeah, I have a different
slightly different from Gary.
Yeah.
She's so great. She's a wonderful person to talk with. Yeah, she's awesome. Everyone knows Jamie Logan. She's a famous vegan YouTuber and all that. All right, awesome. Well, I'll see you next. I'll see you hopefully on Sunday, or if not, I'll see you next week on All Beings Considered. And don't forget, we usually do FOIA Friday. This was taking the place of FOIA Friday. Please, if you are interested in doing FOIAs, let us know because we'll help you out with that too. All right, thanks everybody. See you next time.